So, I read 23 books in the month of July. I'm not sure how that happened, other than I didn't do anything else other than read. So, yeah. But anyway, my name is Anne. This is Elizabeth Ann Reads, and today I'm going to tell you the 23 books I read in the month of July. We're going to go through it pretty quick, otherwise we'd be here forever, so I'm just going to try and give you a couple sentences about each book so we can move on. So starting at the beginning of the month, the first book I read in July was Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is kind of a thriller, like a sci-fi techno thriller kind of, and it deals with these people are having what they're calling false memory syndrome, meaning they have memories of a whole different life than the one they're currently living. So they have two sets of memories, their current life and this other set of memories from this other life. And more people are getting these false memories. And so it deals with that. And it talks about parallel universes and alternate history and change of timeline and things like the Mandela effect. It's really, really interesting. Blake Crouch also wrote Dark Matter, which came out a couple years ago and has been pretty popular. I really enjoyed Recursion. I don't think I liked it quite as much as Dark Matter, but I did really enjoy it, and it's definitely worth a read. The second book I read in July was Betsy Was a Junior by Maud Hart Lovelace. This is I think the 7th book in the Betsy Tacy series. I know a lot of people have been reading the Betsy Tacy series this year. I actually read the first 6 books last year and then never finished it, so I decided to jump in this summer and finish them up. So I read Betsy Was a Junior, which follows, obviously, her junior year in high school, and it deals with things like sororities and popularity and figuring out who you really want to be and the friends that are important to you and what in general is important to you. It was good. It's very sweet. It's a very sweet series, and I love her family and just the friends around her. I get a little annoyed with her occasionally because she seems so flighty sometimes, but in general, I thought it was a fantastic book. Book 3 was Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This is the first book in the Keeper of the Lost Cities series. It's a middle grade fantasy series that follows Sophie, who grew up somewhat normally. She grew up in the human world with parents and a sister and went to school, all those things. And then she finds out that she's not actually human. She's an elf, and so she's taken to the elf world and has to learn how to deal with that. And of course, there's a lot of drama. There's secret societies and all kinds of, just all kinds of things going on kind of underneath the surface of this very peaceful elven world. It's maybe not so peaceful after all. And like I said, this is the first book in the series. It was fantastic. I've already read books 2 and 3 in the series as well, and I'm definitely going to be speeding through those in the next couple months. But again, really, really fantastic book. Book 4 was Crown, and I cannot remember the author, but I'll put it here. And this is a picture book, basically. It was nominated for the Newbery Medal. It was a Newbery Honor book last year, 2018. But it's just a picture book about a boy getting a haircut. And sorry if any of you out there really love this book, but it was stupid. I cannot believe it was nominated for the Newbery. I thought it was ridiculous and pointless, and I'm sure there's someone out there that loves it, and I think the writing is really poetic and beautiful, but the story is nothing, and there were things about it I definitely didn't like. I wasn't a huge fan of the artwork, which that's just personal taste. But yeah, I really thought it was a waste of time. Luckily, it's just a picture book, so it took me all of 10 minutes to read, but yeah, not a fan. Then I read Long Way Down, which was also a Newbery Honor book in 2018. This follows a teenage boy who his older brother has just been shot and killed. It's dealing with gang warfare. So his brother's just been shot, and so he goes and gets his brother's gun and is going to go out and kill the person that killed his brother. And Long Way Down refers to his elevator ride down from his apartment to the ground floor. And just kind of his thought processes. It's written in verse, and yeah, just kind of the thoughts that go through his mind as he's preparing to go do this, and the different things that come up, or memories of different people and different things. I thought it was really interesting. I wasn't a huge fan of the book, but I see value in it. For the right group of people, I think it's a good book. And it was a really interesting concept, and I think done pretty well. I would caution on this one. I would definitely categorize this more as YA and not middle grade. There's some language, including the F word. There's talk about drug use and being high. There's obviously some violence. There's just very light sexual content, not even sexual content really, just references to checking out females and kind of details of how specifically he does that. I don't know, it just, like, I think it's fine as a YA book, but I would be careful with giving it to anyone too young. But yeah, interesting, worth reading, I think, probably. After that, I picked up Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is a YA science fiction novel that follows Spensa, who her goal in life is to be a pilot, like her father was. And so at 16, she's going to flight school. She's trying to get into the flight school, but her father was branded a coward, and so she's dealing with all kinds of just people not accepting her, and even the school not accepting her, and just kind of being pushed away and told she can't do it because cowardice is genetic, and so she's going to turn out to be a coward like her father was. On top of all this, I mean, that's kind of what's going on with her, but obviously there's other plot points and storylines of what's going on, why their planet is the way it is, who they're actually battling, and why. Yeah, just lots of why in this series. I thought it was fantastic. This is the first book in a series. The next book comes out in November, I believe. But yeah, I thought it was really, really good. I know some people have said that it gets kind of bogged down in the middle, and they found it hard to keep up with, like, the technical aspects of it. I didn't have that problem at all. I sped right through the whole thing, and The next book I read was Piecing Me Together, which again is a Newbery Honor book from 2018. This follows a teenage girl living in Portland, Oregon. She is African American, and is kind of from a ghetto type part of town, but she is a scholarship student at an elite private school. So the challenges that come with that, of not fitting in, of trying to figure out who she is, and a lot of things that all girls struggles with identity and weight and not being pretty or not being popular or all these things. And I think it addresses some really good things. Obviously racism is a big part of this, and how she feels because she's African American in a primarily white environment at school, the challenges of that specifically. But again, I thought this was an interesting read. I enjoyed it pretty well. This was probably my favorite of the 2018 Newbery books that I read. So yeah, if it sounds interesting to you, for sure, pick it up. After that, I read By the Shores of Silver Lake by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I have been rereading the Little House series for like the last 3 years. I get to 1, maybe 2 a year. And this is, I don't even know which one in the series this is. Is it the 5th? 4th? 5th? I think 5th. And it's not my favorite in the series, for sure. It's still good. I think it lacks, for me at least, there's not as much family togetherness as there is in some of the other books. That's what I find so charming about the books, is just kind of the stories of how they live within their home and how their family gets along. And this one dealt a lot more with just kind of being in a different environment, and Pa has got a job where he's working with some kind of rougher men, and just kind of how that impacts their lives. So I don't know, I just felt like it didn't have as much of the family aspect of it, which is what I really love about those books. But still a good book, just not my favorite in the series. Next up was Hello Universe, which this is the last of the 2018 Newbery books. This was actually the winner of the 2018 Newbery Award. And I didn't really enjoy this book either. I felt like it follows 4 kids, and 4 kids that in theory should not be friends. They're all very different, and they shouldn't really get along. But fate, as the book puts it, brought them all together. One of the kids gets trapped in a well, and they all have to work together to kind of get him out, to find him, and it's just this kind of this story of how all these different things end up tying together to get to this certain ending. And it was fine. I thought it was a little boring. I didn't think it was particularly interesting. And this is going to sound weird. I think it almost had, in a sense, too much diversity. And I don't mean that as in books shouldn't have diversity, but it seemed like the whole focus of this book was the diversity instead of the plot. So you have a girl who's deaf and Filipino. You have a girl who's Japanese, I think. I can't remember them all. You have a boy who is Hispanic and is probably on the spectrum, the autism spectrum. I don't know. There was just so much focus, like it was constantly reminding you about these aspects of them instead of just having it be part of the story. It like had to constantly remind you that this person has this issue, like, and this person, but she couldn't hear what they were saying because they were turned away from her and she reads lips. She couldn't understand them because she couldn't see their faces. Like, it was constantly just reminding you of that aspect instead of just having it worked into the story. But all in all, I just thought it was a little boring. I didn't find the plot interesting at all. I didn't really like any of the characters. So, yeah, do with that what you will. Next up was a reread. I read The Distant Hours by Kate Morton. I've been in the process of rereading all of Kate Morton's books this year, and this is the third. I really love Kate Morton. If you've been around my channel for any length of time at all, you know that. The Distant Hours follows 3 sisters who live in kind of a castle, a big mansion on a hill that's very much deteriorating. And as per usual, Kate Morton, it deals with 2 timelines. So you have the story of when the girls were younger and what happened, and then you have the current day of a journalist going in to write about them. I think Kate Morton writes beautifully. She's so atmospheric. She writes characters that I just love and connect with. I do think The Distant Hours starts off very slowly. So if you're not used to Kate Morton, I would not start with The Distant Hours. The first half of the book is just very, very slow. The second half of the book picks up. You get more story. You get more resolution to the things that are going on. It just takes a while to get to that point where you feel like you're going somewhere. So I think it's a great book. I just think it starts very slow, and I wouldn't recommend this as a starting point with Kate Morton. All right, after that came 24 and 48. So I read 5 books the weekend of 24 and 48, or I finished 1 and read 4 entirely. The book that I finished was The Light Fantastic by Terry Pratchett. This is book 2 in the Discworld series. My goal this year was to get a significant way through the Discworld series. I've managed to read 2 of them. So not as far as I hope to be, but that's okay. I'm really enjoying this series. I'm looking forward to getting further in the series. And for those of you that don't know, Discworld is a world that's flat on a disc. There's much more to it than that, but I'm not going to go into it. And these first couple books follow the first ever tourist that has found his way onto the Discworld. They're just very funny and full of wit and just odd humor, which I love. And yeah, definitely entertaining, and I'm looking forward to picking up more. After that, I read Keeper of the Lost City's Exile, which is book 2 in the series, and this one was even better than the first one. Again, we follow Sophie and her friends as they start their school, their second year, actually. Sophie missed the first year, obviously, in the first book, but she's joining in with her friends in the second year. And this series, if you're not familiar with it, has definite Harry Potter vibes to it. But it's such a great series. I'm not going to go into too much detail about book 2 because obviously you need to read book 1 first. But yeah, just really, really fantastic. I highly recommend picking them up. After that, I read the next book in the Betsy Tacy series, which is Betsy and Joe, which follows their senior year in high school. I loved this book. Joe is such a great character, and he's so spunky, and he's such a perfect match for Betsy. And yeah, it's a great series. Reading the whole series was worth it just to get to that book, and I still have 2 more. But just to get to where you can read Betsy and Joe was is worth it. After that, I read The One by John Marrs. This is a kind of a thriller. It deals with the concept of a dating service that matches you based on your DNA. So in theory, there is one perfect match for you. And so this dating service will match you up with the person that has that DNA match with you. And so it follows, you get 5 different stories individually in this book of people that are using this service. So you get just very short chapters. Most of the chapters are maybe 3 to 4 pages or less. So you get a chapter from character 1, and then a chapter from character 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it goes through them all again. So you're getting just little tidbits of each one. And obviously none of them are simple and straightforward. They're all complex. You've got, I'm not going to go into too much detail. It was really quick reading. It obviously kept you moving because you kept wanting to get back to a different character, so it kept you moving through the chapters real quick. And I thought it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. And would definitely recommend it if that's your style of book. If it's not, then probably not. But I thought it was really enjoyable. And then the last book I read during the 24 and 48 was The Dollmaker of Krakow. This is a middle grade set in World War II in Poland. And it follows a doll maker, a toy maker, basically. And he makes these, he makes a doll that ends up coming alive. And so he has a little bit of magic in there. And it just goes through how he helps rescue some Jewish children, and I thought it was really interesting. It's very much a different take. I read quite a bit of World War II fiction, so it's kind of a different take on it, and I thought it was really interesting. I don't think it was fantastic, but I thought it was definitely worth a read, and yeah, just again, it's kind of a different perspective, a different take on it, which I enjoyed. Right after that, I jumped into the reading rush, and I did manage to read 7 books during the reading rush. The first one was Book Love by Debbie Tung. This is a graphic memoir that's just talking about books and the love, what it means to be a book lover. And I thought, I like her illustrations, and I enjoyed this book. I didn't feel like it gave me anything that I hadn't already seen before. It just felt like it was kind of rehashed stuff, but still enjoyable for sure. And then I read Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the sequel to Nevermore, which is a middle grade fantasy. I loved Wondersmith. I liked it significantly more than the first one, and I liked the first one, but I thought this one was just fantastic. And again, you've got a fantasy setting, so you've got a magical school. I think the town of Nevermore, where she lives, is really interesting and has lots of quirks, and you kind of get more of that in this book, and just more of her friends and their abilities, and yeah, definitely worth picking up that series as well. After that, I read The Flatshare by Beth O'Leary. This is a contemporary romance that's written in not quite epistolary style, but it's basically 2 characters, Leon and Tiffy, who are sharing a flat, meaning it's a 1-bedroom flat. They're not there at the same time. So Tiffy works a normal 9-to-5 job. Leon works nights and weekends, so he's only there during the day to sleep. So the first half of the book is all just in texts and notes sent to each other. Not entirely, but mostly. And I really like that aspect of it. I like epistolary novels. I like that whole idea of getting to know each other through writing instead of being face-to-face. And that, for me, is what made this book. If that had not been part of it, I would not have liked this book at all. And I'm not a big contemporary romance reader at all. So take that into account, too. But all in all, I just thought this book was fine. I enjoyed that aspect of it. I enjoyed just some of the different things they put in there. There's some talk about like dealing with abusive relationships, or what comes after an abusive relationship and how you deal with the trauma of that. Just some really good stuff like that. But all in all, it was just kind of middle of the road for me. It was enjoyable. It's not something I would reread or pick up again for sure. After that, I read the New York Regional Singles Mormon Halloween Dance. Something like that. I may have got those words in the wrong order, but this is by Elna Baker, and this is a memoir. She grew up Mormon, was raised Mormon, was a practicing Mormon into adulthood, and went to New York because she wanted to be an actress, or actress comedian, and just the challenges of living by the standards you set for yourself in an environment like New York that's has very different standards of behavior. And so dealing with singleness and dating and virginity and all these things. And it was really, I found it very, very funny in parts and very, very relatable. But all in all, overall, I found it a little bit sad just because she seems so confused about who she wants to be and what's most important to her. She can't decide if she wants to pursue her Mormon faith and keep living by that, or if she wants to date every guy she sees and hook up with someone different every night. So all in all, it just made me really sad that she was kind of these polar opposites from day to day of who she wanted to be. But still, definitely entertaining, definitely worth a read. It just kind of left me feeling a little bit sad for her. Then I read A Nest for Celeste by Henry Cole. This is a children's book about a mouse named Celeste, and she's looking for a home. It has beautiful illustrations. I'm not home right now, so I don't have my copy with me to show you. But the illustrations are really good. The writing's really beautiful. The story was kind of meh. It didn't have a whole lot of plot to it, and there's a lot of dead animals in this book. So if you have children that are sensitive to dead animals, don't read them this book. Like, you've got a lot of hunting for sport going on, a lot of shooting down birds so they can pose them and paint them while they're holding still. Yeah, just a lot of that. So just be warned. But all in all, it was just kind of meh for me. I didn't think it was great. After that, I read a little novella called Like a Dream. And this is kind of a magical realism YA. It deals with two kids in high school that are in love with each other, and then they break up. So it's kind of the trauma of that and dealing with your emotions, with the emotions of that. And I thought this book was very sweet. Like I said, it had a hint of magical realism. It's definitely some Sarah Addison Allen vibes to it. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was definitely worth a read. And it's, like I said, it's a novella, so it's only like 100 pages. It reads really quick. And you're getting flashbacks. It kind of goes back and forth between what's happening now and the emotions she's dealing with now. And then it goes back and tells a story about when they were together. And so you get kind of these alternating times happening. But definitely worth a read. I thought it was sweet. Then I read H.G. Wells' The Invisible Man, which is classic sci-fi, kind of hint of horror in there. And it's a fairly standard classic sci-fi. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting. I like kind of the darkness of characters in that era. Like things like Picture of Dorian Gray. I really loved that one too. Just how their inner person reflects their actions. I don't know. I really like that, and it makes me think a lot, and I enjoy that. But yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up more H.G. Wells and read more because I want to kind of get more used to his style, because I had a little trouble getting into it. So definitely want to pick up more H.G. Wells in the future. We're almost done. One more book. I read Bloomability by Sharon Creech. This is a middle grade novel. It follows a girl who is taken from her family. She's taken by her aunt and her uncle, not like kidnapped, but taken by her aunt and her uncle to move with them to Switzerland because he has a job there, and they get to go there for a year, and he's working at a school, so he can bring someone and give them the opportunity to go to this school. And so they take their niece with them. And yeah, kind of the upheaval of that and being taken away from your family that you know and taken with an aunt and uncle that you don't really know. And then kind of finding yourself. It's that middle grade kind of coming of age and finding yourself and, you know, learning about how to make friends and how to be who you want to be. And I really liked this one too. I thought this was a great book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And definitely would pick that one up if you like the coming of age type stories. So that's it. 23 books. Hopefully this video is not forever long. 23 books is not normal for me. This will probably not happen again. But it was fun for July. Anyway, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what your favorite book that you read in July was. I would love to hear, because I'm always looking for more books to add to my TBR, because it's obviously not long enough. But thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.